Hi, friends. I'm very excited to talk to you about a topic that is of great interest to me. It always has been by a person that's been a great interest to me and a wonderful teacher to me through their works. They're no longer with us. The amazing, incomparable Rudolf Steiner, who's given, or Steiner, thousands of lectures and was a prolific writer and very deep thinker and had just a pretty good attitude towards the things he was saying. And that's how I feel resonates for me in life, in that I can think about dark or heavy themes mentally, but in my spirit, I'm a little bit more lighthearted. So, the topic is basically what's known as the incarnation of Ahriman. So, what he refers to as Ahriman is effectively what we would consider, some people would consider, the Antichrist, or um, a very low vibrational individual, so quite satanic. And this is not to be confused with Luciferianism, Satanism, Luciferianism. All right, so if you're not up to speed, you could look those up, they're very interesting. But it's one of the symptoms of, okay, so one of the symptoms of that I find so fascinating because it's becoming so prevalent in society. And one of my all-time favorite minds, the amazing Eric Fromm, or Erich Fromm. And he has so many incredible interviews that he's done and things that he's written in regards to societal consciousness, is what I would call it, collective consciousness, basically. So he is just so wonderful. I don't know how anybody could not agree with or like him. But anyhow, Rudolf Steiner, basically, this inspired, I was thinking today, I did a series here on YouTube, but also on TikTok, breaking down Abraham Hicks's first ever book. It's like this turquoise book. There's a part one and part two. Part two is the pink one. This is the turquoise one. And I think it was written in 1987 and published in 1988. So it's quite old. And big shout out, thanks to my sister for gifting me these copies. She found them and gifted them to me. But in it, I didn't want to mention it because a lot of people are so quick to fearmonger and conspiracy theorize, which does not help the world at all, is that some things are actually beyond our control in terms of manifestation. They're meant to occur. And Rudolf Steiner, so I'm not going to mention what it was in the book, but Rudolf Steiner here talks about Ahriman, and he says it's past the point of no return. We are pretty much in this, I'm very influenced by Eastern belief. So Kali Yuga, we are in it. On the swing out, we're still to be tested and to learn lots of things. So nothing can prevent this. This will happen. Okay. So what can you do? Right. So this is the thing. So the incarnation of Ahriman, as he calls it. Okay. So he calls it the time of Ahriman. You will notice a change, and I'm sure a lot of us have, because I'm around children often. A lot of us are around children often, and we observe societal trends. And children are incredible at picking up primal instincts. That's why it's really hard to fool young people, and this is why they react and rebel so strongly to inauthenticity, to people who are BSing them or lying to them. All right, children as young as 7 know that someone is not sincere. Okay, so it says you will notice a change in children. And so one thing I want to point out is, funny enough, when I was 18 years old, a coworker of mine said that she didn't trust keeping her computer open at night, and this is before cell phones had internet or cell phones had apps, believe it or not. So she said, I've read somewhere that like demons, she was trying to describe jinn, but she didn't have like an Islamic background. She's like, demons like travel through technology, and they can like, she's that's why she said, I learned about like alcohol. It means this like spirits in Arabic. So like I don't want to do that. I don't want that in my house. I don't want it in my apartment. And I thought, oh wow, here we are, like two 18-year-olds like blowing each other's minds. It was amazing. But this is one of the things that Rudolf Steiner actually figured out a long time ago. And he did mention that this influence, we can call it a demonic or a satanic influence, will travel through modern means. So he says you will notice a change in children, and the access that children have these days to technology is just like it's never really happened in our civilization before. Children who are like 2 years old, 3 years old can work an iPad basically. All right, that's not to demonize things, like you can watch colorful stuff, but it's that it actually does do something to your development, and then when we take it farther into adulthood. All right, but he says you will notice a change in children, and I quote, nervous, fidgety, fear of life. Right now, I'm a very sensitive person. I was an extremely sensitive child, and I just had an ingrained like, fear of existence. I didn't know what it was, but I think it makes sense. Maybe I was the first wave of this human anxiety. This nervousness will be noticed by teachers, and for the first time, it will appear en masse. And I mean, I'm on TikTok every day. People are saying, I quit teaching, kids don't listen. I'm scared of them. They cannot be soothed, they cannot be comforted. It's not a matter of control. Like they're just inconsolable and no one can really tell you why. Okay? which is really heartbreaking because, I mean, if you're going to be on the front of something, you're always going to protect the vulnerable of that, which for us is obviously children in our society, or I should hope it is. En masse, all caused by technology, which is aramonic in nature. The cure for this is to turn to God within and become emotionally aware. The Ahrimanic incarnation cannot be averted, means it will happen, it has to happen. Humanity can only prepare, become spiritually strong, and avoid the over blending of technology to human identity and experience. So, one thing that actually really made me laugh, I was telling my friend something. I said, "Oh my God, can you believe it? Like they're putting technology into this, into that." And she just said, "Honey, I want to automate as much of my life as I can. I'm an Aquarius. If I could automate my feelings, I would." It made me laugh because I got it. Like, there's some things, of course, they make things more convenient. In other cases, this completely unnecessary. I don't know why we're all on board with this. I find it sort of like wild. But the reason that God brought up in my mind is I was thinking about purification since about a week and a half ago. I went to a talk on purification and I thought they mention food, they mention all these things, celibacy, for example, spiritual, celibacy, but no one's mentioned technological addiction, especially social media and the dependency that we have mentally. Like a lot of people now, I remember years and years and years ago when I was still like a teen, I couldn't even drive at the time, but my mom said, "Hey, did you know with the sort of the commercialization we had, everyone has access to GPS now, but it wasn't readily available on your phone, etc." About 20 years ago, plus, okay, she said people are going to lose the ability, like sent like directional intelligence. And I thought that's not even a thing. Everybody kind of like has an idea of where they're going. And then I started driving and I didn't depend on my phone. I would just have a map or like figure it out. And then I thought I'm just gonna use my phone, it's so much easier. And I've been doing that for years now. And I tell you, I have no clue where I am unless my phone speaks to me. And even if I know where I'm going, I just feel more comforted. Like I have the comfort of my phone. So it's really interesting how we basically we created this egregore that the phone or the internet is like our protector and our friend, and we love it. And that's not to say you throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's good for so many things. It's good for finding missing people, crucial information, recording acts of violence, for example. What's happened, I don't know where you are, but it's the 28th of March 2024. And this week, bizarre news, nightmare incel activities have occurred in New York City where women are getting randomly punched. Okay. And apparently this is through some Reddit forum that these men have, or this man or whatever. So they've misused technology, but luckily at the same time I think somebody filmed one of them and they were able to arrest this person. So there's good uses for technology, so a tool is useless if you don't use it, but you can also misuse a well-intended thing. And I think that we're kind of tipping into the lack of well-intentioned things, and I do think that it definitely affects children. And we could see the I sound like a South Park episode. I'm like, think of the children. I sound crazy, but it's true. And you go through the world and you think, oh my goodness, we can't avert this thing, so how can we get past it? Well, he said spiritual awareness, emotional awareness, strength, and belief of the God within. He didn't say, believe in this religion or believe in that, like exoteric religion. It's to believe in yourself, to understand that you have the power, you are the dominant power, and you are the operant power of your world. And so, even when this incarnation takes place, you can actually live every day as though you're completely happily oblivious to it and completely unaffected. So, that means whatever is going on in the world, even if it was a natural disaster or a third world, you could actually live in a version of a reality that was a complete paradise and utopia that was completely untouched by that. And I know logically people think that's not possible. If something happens to affect the world, it affects the world, and you're a part of the world and you're in the world, but you need not be of the world. So this is actually possible, and there are even combinations of such things in astrology. You could see that someone's here physically, but they're super removed from their circumstances or their environment. They're almost like untouchable. So we can all do this. You don't need to have a chart for it. I'm just saying as an example. I thought it was like a funny quinky dink, but it is possible. All right. So how can you go through life knowing what we know? And we're seeing that. This is why I also mentioned Eric Fromm. If I didn't mention, sorry, Eric Fromm is one of my favorite minds ever. He's no longer with us as well, but The idea, again, bringing it back to children, when we see children being diagnosed with all sorts of things, prescribed all sorts of things, it always fascinated me because it's happening in my lifetime and I'm seeing these things crop up. And people will say things like, well, don't you believe in medicine? Don't you believe it's the modern world? We're so far ahead. We're discovering things we've never known before. You don't even have to think that far back or observe very deeply. Nothing is wrong with that child in particular, or en masse, all children cannot be wrong. The world cannot be wrong. But how do you expect an individual to grow up and be healthy and thrive in a sick place? Not even a group of children, a single person. How is a single person meant to thrive and develop in a sick society? And we live in a sick society. This is a sick society. There's no question about it. I've mentioned this in one of my recent lives. The difference between having something and being something. And even Abraham Hicks has said that. Everybody, I'm sure, who enjoys play on words has come to this realization at some point in life, especially if you're spiritual, that you're a human being, not a human doing, not a human having, but we grade ourselves on these very Ahrimanic things. What do you possess? Achievement, accolade, money, power, influence, cars, watches, clothes, etc. Instead of, are you a joyful person? Are you a person of integrity, a noble individual? Do you have courage? Are you a heart-centered person? Because life is rooted down to relationships. So if we have a generation now, and we do, my generation, and the one below me is not pairing off as much as we are used to pairing off, and it's because there's so much overexposure to so many things that don't serve us and have emotionally and socially stunted us in so many ways. So once again, it's not like I love the internet. I don't know who I would be without the internet, but to what extent are you using it and for what means? So the reason I started Guru Grit was because I thought there's so many of these people calling themselves astrologers or spiritual teachers saying things that wouldn't make sense to anybody, even the smartest person in the world. They're lying to you, and you want to become enlightened, take this course and pay this money. I'll teach you. You teach yourself. Okay, my job as an astrologer is to make you your own. So you don't need me. Okay, every 6 months. That's ridiculous. You can come once in a while and kick it, but it's about empowerment. So yeah, it's not the thing, it's how the thing is utilized. So I just found that such an interesting quote when he said, in children, a nervous, fidgety fear of life. But I feel that I quote the book often, Ben Sass, The Vanishing American Adult, that this fear of life and this fidgetiness is not just in children now, it's also in adults, myself included, which has trapped us in a state of mental infancy that we cannot seem to break out of. Like, we can't own homes, can't find marriage partners, just can't afford children. It's like you expect us to be rational adults, but you have not given us the room to grow into roles of responsibility, right? Because again, it's a rigged society. So it's not like rich versus poor. It's just like enlightened versus unenlightened. It's really annoying. But the good part is, because it does have to deal with energy, you can be the power. Okay, you can give yourself those experiences without those external measures that we so often are programmed to reach for in a sick society. So anyways, just want to come on and talk about that very quickly. Pretty much is going to be an introductory, like, little is it 5 minutes? I went over, didn't I? 13-minute 13-minute video, and then we'll discuss more of the harmonic things in the future, just because you can't see it, but my bookcase before my textbooks were there, because I've gone back to studying, were mostly like end of the world things and the coming of Ahriman, or whatever you want to call it. um Again, I bought another book by Nostradamus last week. I have it right here. I'm just so fascinated by these things. It's Nostradamus and women. So yeah, interesting. So there's nothing to fear. Long story short, there's nothing to fear. You can give yourself a life you've always wanted. You could be, do, or have anything in the world, and no one can tell you otherwise. I wish you all well, and I hope you survived the eclipse from 3 days ago, and that you're gonna be fine for the next one. Bye for now. Until next time. Make sure to join me on TikTok, and I'm trying to go live on YouTube every Wednesday and Sunday. Wednesdays, I think it's 1 p.m. Sundays, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm on TikTok. I haven't posted there in a while, but I'm pretty active on there, and on Instagram as well. If you have any questions, you can email me at gurugritinfo@gmail.com or leave a comment here. Until next time, bye for now.